Thanks again for tuning in to our Enlightened Conversations, where this season we are deep diving into some tough topics with our guests. I will also be sharing some enlightened conversations with my favourite intergalactic being, Ralph, from my book, Conversations with Ralph, as well as some new, never been heard of conversations with them. You hear it all here, real, raw and rare, and all shared in an enlightened way. Hi everyone, and welcome to Enlightened Conversations. And today I have a wonderful being of light all the way from Canada, all the other way on the side of the world, Michael Philpott. He is here to join me today. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah, me too. And like we were just saying, it was really nice that we kind of knew each other through different channels, kind of feel like we have a sense of who each other is, and feel like we have already got, even though we haven't had a conversation officially before, a little bit of a energetic connection already happening, which is really super cool. I love that kind of thing.
Yeah, so do I. And it was very natural. When you reached out, I was like, I was a little hesitant at first because obviously with my voice and stuff, but I just felt so comfortable. It's like I was saying earlier, it's so weird being on the opposite end because I'm usually the one filming and having everybody else talk, which is great because I love people who can talk because I can just sit here and just smile for an hour or so. I don't have to use my voice, which is great.
Yeah.
So which has been
Yeah. And
fantastic.
it's really lovely to when I saw your post on coming back into doing your podcasts, and I'll introduce Michael shortly officially so you guys know what he does. But just when I saw that post, I just like it screamed to me um, to support you
Oh,
and to
thank you.
support you coming back in. And it just felt like this was a really lovely way to do that. And I just, yeah, every cell in my body was just screaming to support you to do that. So that's where it was coming from. So I'm really glad you kind of felt, yay, it was a natural kind of thing to have me reach out to you.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey this last little while. I've learned so much about myself and the people, and just trusting. That was one of the lessons I had to learn, is just to be able to trust. But it just felt natural and right. I was a little bit scared shitless, because I actually have to talk and I actually had to put myself out there. But it was such a really beautiful thing. I realized that if you have a community that loves and supports you unconditionally, it's one of the greatest assets that you could have and build for yourself. That's one of the things I've learned so far.
It's true. And I feel like with Enlightened Conversations, I've always tried to kind of make it so that we can talk about anything. Like we can talk about the hardest stuff on the planet because we know it's a safe place. Like it's a no, we know we're safe here. Um,
Yeah.
we're not going to be judged. We're not going to be attacked. We're not going to be criticized, ridiculed, humiliated. All the yucky things that are almost natural in the media to do to people. And I just wanted to sort of do it a different way. Like let's just do this a different way. We can talk about anything. We can go anywhere and have differences of points of view or introduce new points of view, and not feel like there's any real risk there in that moment. It's a holding space that's safe. It's a container of safety. So I hope you feel
Yeah.
that today.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's just so nice, and it's just the energy. It's the energy you put off. So, I'm kind of like a little bit of an open book. It's one of the things I had to struggle. To be honest with you, is
Mm,
literally to find my voice.
mm.
But yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, I think that's really important. I think it's nice to create a space where people can just have conversations. And that's the way I approach things too. We're just going to have a conversation. We're just going to talk about crazy stuff. We may go into the woo woo, as I like to call it. But, for the most part, it's just two people having conversations, and just press and record. That's the way I look
Yeah,
at it.
exactly. And for
Yeah.
those of you who want to know a little bit more about this wonderful man, being of light, Michael is a psychic medium, and he has given life readings to people all over Canada, the US, and the Caribbean. Michael is also a Reiki Master and teaches intuitive energy interpretation, and is a classically trained chef and former personal trainer as well. He's also the host of the popular podcast, The Metaphysical Mentor Show, providing inspiration, information, knowledge, and motivation to help you on your soul's path, covering topics related to all things health and happiness, from the mystical to the metaphysical and everything between, making the unknown known. I love that. Making the unknown known. And I talk about a lot about, lots of things are just there, and then we it's almost like we talk about them and then they exist, but they've always been there, even though they're the unknown. They require a conversation to be spoken about. Isn't that true?
Yeah, and that's what I'm really finding it is a lot of people are craving that type of information. They're craving the unknown,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things I love to do is to bring guests on, and that maybe a topic somebody hasn't heard about before that needs to
Mm,
be discussed about, and whether it's it's an ancient healing technique or more of a scientific approach to a healing technique, or
yeah.
just something in general, just to really help you on your path. Whether it's again, it's either it's from a health concern. I kind of look at it as like a very much a holistic approach to it. So we look at all things like the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual areas of our path, right? And somebody might be okay physically, but maybe mentally they're struggling, or maybe somebody's okay mentally, but spiritually they're struggling. So they're always trying to have different conversations and different topics, different points of view, like you were saying, just to have that type of information so that somebody can draw that one little tidbit. And that's the one thing that I'll be honest with you, that's why I really wanted to get back, because over the past year, people have been DMing me about all these little information bits, or they saw this one guest and that just kind of sent them off this in their own little trajectory, and they've been so grateful for it. And even though I don't like to take credit for it, it's the guest and the information, but it was just so kind to hear that. And that really, when my dark days hit, when I got it, like one of those random DMs, it really helped me get off the floor and just muster through stuff. So
Yeah.
it
Well,
was good.
that's it's so beautiful that you say that. It's such a symbiotic relationship I have with my guests. There is a growth, there's a soul growth, there is a definite. That's why I came back into doing enlightened conversations. I'd done it for 3 seasons and I had about 20 plus hosts doing the show as well as myself.
Wow.
I know it got to a real level of producing rather than kind of just doing my thing, which was great because I just love to support people. But then I got called into the corporate world for a bit to learn some really interesting current, you could say current trends, and to understand what's going on in the mechanisms of the corporate world. And so that, but then after that, I really felt called to come back here. And what I'm really being called to discuss are really hard to talk about topics, more this season. I kind of found my way back in a bit gently, and just I had so much like pouring out of me that I just had so much to talk about anyway. But now this 6th season, I'm really, really wanting to talk about those hard to talk about topics that that not a lot of people feel comfortable talking about, or they might feel scared to talk about. It might be too hard. It might not be a supportive enough environment. So whenever I'm sort of like, sitting here talking with people, I know it's for my own soul growth as well, to be able to talk about those hard topics. There's enough like in my history and past that I know a lot of people just don't even know about, but I'm such an open book. So I'm like, how come like people don't know about a lot of stuff? And it is because there hasn't been that kind of like safe space for me to just like appropriately in context get it out there. So I think it's going to be a two-way street for sure with this season. And talk to me more about what your journey has been with your recovery.
Oh
So
my gosh. How much time do we have?
we have as much as you want. Part 1, part 2. How's your voice going to go? I don't mind.
Well, for those who have been following my story or really don't know, is I was actually diagnosed with throat cancer, neck and throat cancer past year. It was actually, funny enough, it was actually 2 days. This would be my 1 year anniversary when I
Oh,
got
wow.
diagnosed. Yeah, so it's kind of auspicious that
Very.
I kind of had this podcast today, and I've kind of openly talked about it a bit, not much. I mean, I post a little bit on my social media, but I didn't. part of me, I was still pretty shy about trying to put myself out there, I felt very, very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult to kind of tell people and let people know that, hey, I got cancer, and it was pretty scary for a while. And of all things, somebody who uses his voice as like this is
Mm,
not my natural voice. It's just recovering right now, but yeah, it
yeah.
was pretty touch and go, and yeah, it spread pretty quickly, and I didn't realize how precarious it was until the doctors kind of give you that panic look in their eyes, and it rushed. But it happened like from the time I got diagnosed and the time I got into treatment was very, very fast. So, I always say like my peeps were behind me on that, but having cancer now is probably one of the most shittiest diseases that any human can ever go through. Not only just from uh, a perspective of just how the disease, as soon as you hear that word, that C word, your whole everything just shifts. Like it's just like it's like what the happened? Like how does hell, and then anything else you start putting the whys in, like why did it happen? Why did this? You
Mm,
try to figure it out. Try not to get into your victim mode and why me? And but it was really a struggle. The treatments were brutal. I think the treatments were just as rough as the cancer. It's funny for all the talk about funding cancer and Ali's research and stuff like that, that it's basically the same techniques that they use. It's basically cut, slash, and burn or
yeah.
poison. Basically, that's the same how they treat cancer. It doesn't matter where you are. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I struggled on what type of treatments to do. I mean, obviously, do have a background in health, and I had so many health
Yeah.
practitioners around me, but there's that fear it's just as much as your will, it's like, oh, I'm going to do alternative medicine. I'm going to try to do this. But when your life is on the line really quickly and everybody starts panicking, there's just that survival mechanism. Your brain goes, yeah, I think I'm going to do it. And I struggled with, because first the treatment was they were going to do radiation and chemotherapy at the same time. And I go, Jesus, both. I said, how the hell am I going to get through this, man? I mean, I know some people just do one or the other. A
Yeah.
lot of times when you do both, it's going to be very difficult. And I thought, well, what if I just do the radiation? What if I just do the radiation? It's localized and stuff like that. And then they forgot to tell me that I had a spot in my lung. Well, okay, well, that changed things. So originally went from having neck and throat cancer. Now it wasn't one of those super aggressive cancers that, thank God, but it was already in my lymph nodes. And that's what was really the sign, because I woke up and around my neck and I had this big bump on the side of my neck and I couldn't figure out what the hell is that. So I
Yeah.
just, typical guy, I just said, it's just something that's swollen. Maybe just got an infection. I really thought it was like an eustachian tube or something, because I've been having ear problems and things like that. So I didn't make anything of it. So, but yeah, it's just really a bizarre thing. And I'm still processing, to be honest with you. Like, I mean,
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. And
yeah, it is.
like coming into this year, like I had about three different physical issues. I had plantar fascia, I had a shoulder injury that wasn't really healing itself, and I also had a abdominal a hernia thing that I had to have fixed, and I had a recent operation. And like they're so like we're in the industry of holistic healing, so and all those things required medical intervention. Like it wasn't like it's a humbling, it's not cancer, right? Okay, I'm not even comparing, but just on that energetic level of acceptance and humility on that everything is there as a support resource for us, if whether it's medical intervention, surgical, or if it's holistic, it's all part of the same thing. And just to step
Mhm.
out of the shame on that, the shame, oh, I shouldn't be because I'm in the metaphysical physical healing holistic arena, and to see that all support is required as a human being. And I think just to step out of that shame of no, that we learn certain things, and we can only learn certain things to help other people as well if we walk a certain journey. of educating ourselves on both sides as well. So I don't know if that's got anything to do with your processing and your healing and your recovery and your integration of what's happened, but I'm a big advocate for both sides of the fence.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly am now. I mean, I wasn't always anti allopathic medicine. I mean, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. That's what I look at it right now. So, um, I just think there's just a part of my thinking is that there's no integration between the two. And this is the one thing I've noticed is that very good at treating you. Like I had like a top crack team. I had like the top team. I was so fortunate enough to get into this clinic that we have here in Toronto. Um, Top tier clinic and top tier doctors. I had as far as my oncologist, medical oncologist, radiology, and my surgeon. My surgeon was like the top guy. So I was very, very fortunate to have those set of peoples. But they get you in, they treat you, and they're like clockwork. They know their stuff, and but the thing is, it's the aftercare afterwards. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, go home, and yeah, we'll see you that when if there's any symptoms, we'll just give you more medication. And I realized that the recovery process was really on, and thank God I do have that kind of background because that's how I feel that I'm so much better than what I should be. And the doctors are still kind of rattling your head. Oh, you look good. And it's like, well, yeah, because I've been putting in the work in. I've
Yeah.
been, you know, but then I
Yeah.
always,
That's what all my
and
doctors
then,
say too. Like, oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, but because yeah.
yeah, we understand that, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a really interesting thing because with all the advancements in technology and stuff like that, I mean, there's no integration as far as the overall healing aspect of it. And that's one of the things I really understood is that, there should be some more integration into the aftermath. I mean, there are services available, but if you're not willing to go and really force yourself to do it, and but after you get done treatment, like I was a fucking basket case, man. I tell you what. I mean, I basically wanted to roll up and die. Like that's how bad it was for a while. And
Yeah.
the thing is too is I wasn't able to eat or drink, and
Mm.
that was the one of the things too is that I'm a former chef. I love to cook. I love to eat.
Mm.
I couldn't eat shit. Oh my god, everything was so bad. Oh my God,
Mm.
everything that tasted, they had this, it's a weird thing, like it's called chemo mouth or radiation mouth. It's like everything tastes like if you had to think about tasting mercury, like
Yeah.
metal, like this most toxic
Yeah.
taste, anything you put in your mouth, you wanted to spit out. I couldn't swallow anything. Plus, I couldn't swallow anyways because my throat was all swollen.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
it was just a real thing. But I'll be honest with you, one of the things I look at now, this was the perfect time for me to have this disease.
Wow.
I look at this now and it's almost like, how your life is it's a series of tests
Yeah.
and, you build up one success, you
Yeah.
fall down, you break it down, things just happen,
Yeah.
and I realized if this was happened 10 years ago, I wouldn't be here. I
Would
just
have
would have just,
broken you. Yeah.
it would have really broken me.
Yeah.
And, it's just accumulation of all the stuff that all the work that I put myself through, like all the
Yeah.
therapy and things like that, and going, continuing and helping, getting myself better, and understanding a little more philosophical about it,
Yeah.
and actually having to been in the industry as far as that, because I actually used to, it was a weird thing. This is kind of a synchronistic thing. So they have a support center attached to the hospital for cancer. It's called Wellspring. And I used to volunteer there giving Reiki treatments to the cancer
Post-operatively?
patients.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Post or pre? Was it both or
both,
pre-operative? Oh, wow.
both.
Wow. Mm.
So this is like that. So I used to give Reiki treatments. This is like years ago, and when I first
Mm.
started doing that, and I was just like, wow, what's the odds? And then it's like, there's the building I used to go volunteer at. It was just the weirdest thing, but I understood what it was and what it is. And then also too, I had some brilliant support around me too, as well, which always checked up on me, which is invaluable, absolutely
Yeah.
invaluable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I'm really appreciate you sharing that with me. And, it's one of those things that often when we're walking through those dark times, that we we can't fathom what the hell could this learning be out of this. And it's only
God.
when we actually look back and we go, actually, you know, I just had to deal, like, or tolerate really, or, tread water to get through it. But because it was so bad. But then after that, we can, when the haze is cleared a little bit, we can and we accept that that's okay, because we're human beings and we have pain thresholds. We have, taste preferences. We have all these things that are okay. It's only after that we can actually reflect on it and go, okay, well, like, gee whiz, am I that strong? Like, oh God, who would have thought, that I could survive that? But yeah, because of all the work you've done. And I do want to, I do want to say I've had a couple of close friends that have had cancer diagnoses in the last couple of years. One had a double mastectomy, and the other one has had a stomach cancer previously, and recovered from that 11 years ago. I think it was 12 years ago, and it now has
Awesome.
pancreatic cancer, like just diagnosed this month past. And so, but both of them have also presented, because of all the work that they've done on themselves, and all the integration, and all the and how they know how to deal. We throw everything at it, don't we? When we're in the middle of it, and they
Yeah.
just have had like a very positive attitude around, and hope and faith around the process. Like even though they know it's and it was a tough road, they still had that sort of buoyancy there to support themselves too. And I just want to say, anybody listening to this, like, no one's immune. I don't think any of us are immune, no matter how much work we do on ourselves, from being human, from having anything physically, whether it be cancer or something else happen to us. What I want to encourage people to know is that we can get through it. Like yourself, we can get through the most challenging, horrendous, terrible, treatment plans because they're the only ones at the
Yeah.
moment, and come out the other side, and have more connection, not less connection, to the world, to ourselves, to our support team. Like you said, your peeps had you, you got diagnosed and you got in quickly. That's exactly what happened with my friend with the double mastectomy. She had a breast examination at the beginning of the year, and 5 months later, the lump that they took was about this big, like that round, like that big, in 5 months.
Wow.
So it was just she was really lucky too, so that she so when, if we're not meant to go that way, then we got to trust that it's the journey that we need to walk as well.
Yeah. And that's the really deep philosophical part. Like, there's always that thing too, as well, because it's really interesting. I've had two people that I know also too, and it seems to be all these light workers
Yeah.
all got cancer. I have a good friend of mine. She just went through breast cancer. She went before I did. And then another friend of mine, just their second round of cancer. And I met her through my podcast and through a friend. And she's going through her second bout of cancer. And she's positive as hell going through it. So she had colon cancer. That went away. And then now she had a brain cancer. So she's getting rid of that. And she had a little bit on her, I think her lungs too. Like, I'm not 100% sure, but I think she's too as well. But it's slowly starting to go away. So she's been doing some amazing work on herself. But yeah, like, it's just one of those weird things. Yeah, I don't even know how to really talk about it sometimes. It's just, yeah, it's just nutty. Like, that's all I could say. It's just, I just don't, like you said, you just don't know if you're not meant to be, if you're not meant to go this way, you're not meant to go. And I think sometimes one of the things I worry about, I think about a lot, is like, why am I still here? You
Mm.
know, the deep philosophical side. It's like, almost like that survivor's guilt a bit. And,
Mm-hmm.
so many people, like, I'll just share another story that was not too long ago, is that, prior to, I think just before, was it just at COVID? Maybe just at COVID, just after beginning of COVID, I had my stepbrother took his life.
Mm.
which was really traumatic. I wasn't super close to him, like my younger brother was close to him, but I looked at his life as far as what he had. He had everything, everything, the beautiful family, the beautiful job, the career. He just had it all. And, and he took his life, and I didn't understand that. And then sometimes I wondered, why am I still here? Like, what am I doing? It's like, and I think I struggle with that sometimes. Like, okay, am I really supposed to be doing what I'm doing? I know God has another plan for me or something like that, but yeah, I struggle with that sometimes. It's just a weird underlying feeling that kind of haunts me some days, you know? So,
And I think that's super honest, because we sometimes, like, how you were talking about, like in your show, we, we make the unknown known. And I think part of the journey, for us as light workers, is that we're living in an unknown space too. Like, a lot of people think, oh yeah, you're psychic, you're a medium, you should know everything. Everything should be revealed to you. And, it's a bit like that. Sometimes I think you should know everything. But the reality is, part of walking the path of this is being at peace in the unknown. Like,
mhm.
just not knowing, but still being able to hold that vibrational frequency of peace around it. And that is actually quite challenging to do, especially when you've been seen to have to know and to see and to feel everything intuitively. And that expectation can be quite misunderstood, with, I think, a lot of people when they look at you as a psychic or a medium. We're not meant to know everything. And a lot of the time we have to sit in the unknown in peace. And with our journey, especially, I believe as well, that never kind of goes away, because we're still on a soul growth journey. And
Oh yeah.
there are things that, oh gosh, we'd love to know before we hit them too, but we're not
Yeah.
meant to.
One of those, when I'm going to hit the lottery numbers, everybody could,
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, like sometimes there are people, and it's so, like, why, like, that they've got everything. Why? what's
yeah.
what is the purpose of not, wanting to exit this plane, and exit the lessons or what have you? And I often think about that suicide. I've had 3 members of my family suicide, um, going back, 3 generations. And, I often wonder, I don't know, like, why do people suicide? But I do know that sometimes they still continue to learn when they cross over, and they only
Oh
learn from
yeah.
doing that. Like, they had to do that to get what they had to get. But it also, I think, it impacts the whole family and the whole family system. Like, why do I have three generations of suicides or suicide attempts, um, and some other family doesn't have any? Like, what's that about? And I question that too. I've actually got a podcast booked. To I booked it yesterday or the day before with somebody who that is going to be the topic we are actually going to be talking about,
Wow.
because that is so, it's such a question. I think I need to, like, unpack it, like, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's great that you mention it, because there's that real flow and effect of it's affecting your life right now. Like, you survived, but they exited. Like, you had to fight to be here, and they had
Yeah.
everything and they left. What's that about? Like, it doesn't make sense, does it? Like,
No, logically it doesn't. I mean, I try to look at it like a philosophical thing, right? And we look at, because as far as what I understand now, and I'm still very limited, very myopic in my own view on certain things, but I just feel that there's a bigger things at play here. There's so much
Mm.
integration and intermingling of different things, and part of John, who is my stepbrother, part of his journey was to, as far as him to the crossover stuff like that. Maybe that was part of the bigger plan of that particular stage where that was his exit time, but to give the lessons for everybody else to as well. And sometimes we don't see it that way. I mean, I realize that um, with my own cancer diagnosis, it really affected my family really well, very hardly, I should say, very well, very
Mm.
hardly, very hardly. Excuse me. been a while since I talked too much. So
That's okay.
yeah, so because what happened was my father died of cancer too as well, and I remember it as a young man, a very well young man. I was like 6 years old, but and he died of cancer too.
Mm.
So having that process, I know my younger brother was just a baby when he died, so he didn't really know my father. But my older brother, he really struggled with it. You know, a lot of stuff that it's like I was the only one who really did any internal work and did some work. And I know this was a part of the process from them to really start to open up their own pain and deal with the loss of our father because it was such a traumatic thing. And you know, I think that was part. I can kind of see philosophically that you know my family had to deal with that and go through that. Um,
It's like our
s-
diagnosis and our challenges aren't always about us, even though I know it's for our soul growth, but there's that whole on-flow effect of how it starts to
yeah,
trigger kind of in a way. I'm not sure if I'm saying this right. I don't want to say it in a way that's invalidating or in any way, shape, or form, but I
yeah,
kind of feel like talking to you about this and hearing how that affected them and potentially triggered them and maybe some unresolved grief that they required for their healing, re or dad passing from the same illness, and
yeah.
maybe that your journey, you could handle it, was like a sacrifice for them, like kind of thing to kick off their healing. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a good possibility. I mean, I way to look at my path right now. I'm sure there's been a lot of stuff, and what I'm doing now, it was part of the bigger picture, and that's what happened. But yeah, it's so sometimes it's you know that's what kind of made it ill, right? Like I didn't stress too much about it. I mean, I know their pain, and one of the things I've learned is stop rescuing people and trying to
Mm,
trying to heal the whole world at the same time. But yeah,
definitely.
yeah, it just got to look at a different perspective. And I think that's, like I said, if, you know, this was the perfect time for me to actually have it.
Yeah.
And so I can have an understanding of it. Just excuse me for a second.
Yeah. No, wow,
Yeah.
it's really profound what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everybody listening gets how profound it is. Like we still have questions
Yeah.
around the whys as to,
Oh, yeah.
why things happen, because there are so many reasons why it could, like the timing. You can cope with it. Unresolved healing in other people. We're part of, like we're all one. I'm with you on the whole non-rescuing, because I came to a point in my own growth and realization that if we're all connected, then the only person I really have to concern myself with is me and being at peace, because as I do that, that the ripples then affect everyone else. And all the unpeace leaves or presents itself. So it may have, in your case, the unpeace being the cancer presents itself for removal. It's not resonating. It's not meant to be there anymore. It's taken out, and so therefore, because that's taken out, then that flow and effect affects your family. And then because you're not having to hold that energy and space for the cancer, that then just gets distributed in a way that people, you're not carrying it, and you're enabling that letting go process and all the support you received to do that, as them a handing over of, now it's time, like almost like a wave that they need to kind of then own whatever their stuff is around the
Yeah.
situation that is unpeace that they're sitting in at the moment.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, one of the good things about this disease, if there is a such thing, I just learned a lot just not to give a shit as much anymore.
Mm,
You just kind of say screw it.
mm,
And I've just learned to do that. I just say, listen, I can't deal with it. I got to think about me, about that. Whatever's going on with you, that's you. And you know, you just can't put that on me. And yeah, it's. There's been a lot of lessons. I'm still trying to figure them out. I'm trying not to figure them out too much because last geez, it's been what, 6 months, 7 months since I got out of the hospital and treatments and everything else. And all you do is think.
yeah.
And I'm really to the point where I just want to start living and start doing instead
Mm,
of just thinking, because you really can't do too much. Like for the most part, I was just lying on my couch, it was like two stops, the couch, the bathroom, the couch, the bathroom. That was really about how things
Can
were.
relate to
So
that.
yeah,
Like I had a recliner. I can't lie. I'm glad we got those that we were guided to get a different set of. We got a two-seater, like it's a three-seater, but there's two recliners on it. Oh my God, I can't believe we got that in like at the beginning of the year, and then I had to have operations, and that's literally me. I mean, my exercise was like going to the toilet and then going back to the couch. So that's all I could do with my abdominal
yeah. I
recovery.
mean, yeah, okay, the abdominal thing, because you don't realize how, like, just realize how much you're using your abdominal muscles to get up, move, twist, like
Yes.
just the smallest little things, and it'll
Yeah.
set you off. Like you just like, and then
Mm.
like obviously trying to go to the washroom, right? You're contracting and trying to push in those muscles. Like you don't realize that your abdominal muscles come into play. And then you have to get off the toilet. You have to squeeze to push your muscles up without trying to like, stretching your muscles. And it's like, and then
Yeah.
then the muscles contract. So you're trying to sit up straight and your body's going, no, let's just keep moving, leaning forward. And then you
Yeah.
had the plantar fasciitis. Now I had that, and that
Mm.
sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like when you're on your feet, and it just feels like somebody taking a knife at the bottom of your feet, running it from your heel to your toes,
Yeah.
heel to your toes. And you can barely walk. It
Yeah.
just feels like, it's like, what is going on here? I've had
Mm.
that. And it's one of those pesky things that doesn't just seem to go away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
one of those damn things. It's like, God. And the worst thing is, you first thing you get up in the morning, put your feet on the floor, and it's like,
That's the worst time.
yeah. And you're dropping 4-letter words like you're a trucker,
Mm.
stuck in traffic.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah, it's been a real a really good experience for me to just be humble about my physicality and to plan things that support me to enjoy life, a bit like what you just said before. So my husband and I are going to be doing a lot of travel come November, so it was a really great opportunity to get it done now so that we can go and just enjoy some travel, extensive travel, and to really have that human experience, guilt-free human experience of traveling. And
Yes.
the way I look at it in terms of my soul growth is um being at peace in the unknown. And it's especially like that when you're traveling, because you are going into literally going into the unknown of where the hell am I going? I don't know. And so just from that point of view, it is about like, this year is about preparing myself for that. So getting myself all right and ready. And then I can go and I can walk and I know how much I can do and what I can do and what I can't do and how long. And, just to be more in touch with what my humility, like what are my limitations? It's okay. It's okay to have limitations, peeps. Like you don't have to be a being of light and a limitless physicality all the time, and to be okay, to be enough.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. I'm so missed that. I mean, I was trying to think of the last trip I took was prior to COVID.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and I was like, so I so kind of missed that. I mean, I used to travel for work a lot, which was great because I didn't have to pay for it, which was fantastic.
Mm,
And I missed that. I missed that traveling. I missed some of the people I used to work with. I used to spend a lot of time in the UK, so it was kind of like a second home for a while. And but it was nice to travel into the unknown, and I kind of missed that. And that mentality is kind of kicking in now. It's like, I've kind of got the okay. Everything seems to be kind of going. I mean, I got some underlying issues that I still have to deal with. Like, I mean, but it's nothing seriously that is holding me back. I mean, I still have a lot of radiation fatigue, which is like the
yeah.
nightmare. It's like I feel like I call it like the perpetual hangover. That's what it feels
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
It's
That's
just like the
terrible,
weird
isn't it?
thing. Oh,
Oh,
yeah, it's just that. But for the most part, I just got some secondary things that I need to get, taken care of. But for the most part, I just actually, it was last week I saw my radiologist, and he just looked at me and says, "Well, all right, I know you got this, but it looks like we don't see any cancer right now. So yeah, we'll see you in a few more months for some more tests. And all right, see ya." So it's like,
yeah.
okay, it's like, all
Hmm.
right. So I think I got the clear to go and do stuff because, I was kind of keeping myself isolated. And I think part of I was feeling very vulnerable because I was just feeling so weak and vulnerable and sick. I just like, it's almost like I feel like COVID again. I was like locked down again. That's what it felt
Yes,
like.
I
You
did
know,
too. Yeah.
yeah, it was
Mm,
just a weird feeling of that. So I
mm.
kind of feel like you said like, I had to get this cleared out of the way. I had to get this cleared um, out of my soul growth, I guess. And I look at it now. It's like I can look back, kind of like I always say philosophically. I can look at it and say, well, I did that. Check
Yeah,
that one off
tick.
the
Yeah,
list.
done. Been through that.
Yeah, people saying, "Well, I climbed Kilimanjaro," and I was like, "Well, I fucking beat cancer, dude. That one,
Yeah.
bitch." You know what I'm saying? Check that one off the list. Did some internal heal, did some healing. Went
Yeah.
to therapy, became a better human being. Check that one
Yeah.
off the list.
Yeah.
Dealt with this issue. Check that off the list. So
Yeah.
I I realized too as well. I mean, it really helps me. Even in my own work there, I was doing life readings because I'm more in tune with what's going on with it because I can empathize because a lot of my strongest gift is being an empath, but I can really empathize with what's going on with people's pain. I mean, I've always been that way, but um, it's just given me a lot of I've had a lot of life experience in my short period of time and been through a lot. So it makes me a little bit easier to understand the individual on the opposite end of the screen here. Like I can talk to them and understand what's going on, and I've been through there. I've been there. I've been there. I've done that. So I
Yeah.
fully understand what they're going through, and this is kind of giving me. I always say it's just giving me a little bit more tools in my toolbox that I can use when I'm helping my
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah. I agree. And I think there's just anybody listening who might have some shame around physical illnesses because you're been doing a lot of healing for a while and you've gone to the doctor and you've got a diagnosis and you think, no, I can't talk to anybody about it because I'm so ashamed because I shouldn't have this because I've been doing all this work on myself. Just let me say this to you. Often illnesses and surgical procedures present themselves because we are ready to have a release and to move on from a specific vibration that could be have been there for a while, laying dormant, and we're ready to kick ass like you have, Michael. And that just to please talk about it and talk to the
Yeah.
right people about it, like Michael,
I
and
just got
you know
I just got chills from that. That's just so empowering.
It's
I'm
so
just like,
powerful,
oh,
isn't it? Like, yes.
yeah,
And we often see
yes,
it as a negative. Like, we often see it as, oh God, I need to have this surgery. I need to have this done. I need to, I've got this. It's like, no, but maybe it's presenting itself because you've done all the freaking work and you need to like let it go. So, I'm glad that you felt it because that's something I think has been percolating for a while within me to say.
I was so powerful, and it's so true. Like it really is. It's not too often I get goosebumps when people talk, and I was like, wow, that really resonated with me, and I think it's going to really resonate with your audience too, as well. Those who are listening, like, I mean, there is that vibration to every illness, and like, having a surgery, stuff like that, to get that part. There's an energetics. There's a stuck energy that's there, and
Mm,
I know my throat was a big thing, was not be able to communicate myself, not be able to express who I was,
mm,
my own pain. I think it's one of the, when you talk about shame, there's like a really heavy shame as far as on the male aspect of it, to actually to talk about your problems and talk about your pain. Because all I did was literally stuff it down, as most guys do. We stuff it down, like you can't show that, right? And really be vulnerable and open up and talk about that. I was like a big source of my shame, but also a big fear too. And I just wouldn't talk about, a lot of the things that I've been through. And I mean, I don't always talk about it, but when they're at the right period of time, I will talk about them when they come up. And this is a part about refining my voice. Like
mm.
if you were to ask me what I, well, maybe even 5 years ago, to even talk about my cancer, on a public space, I wouldn't have told anybody. Like, I mean, I struggled to tell people, my immediate friends, that I had cancer. I
Yeah.
was not going to tell people I had cancer. There's no
Yeah.
way. And then
Yeah.
my friends say, well, you should do this. And I go, yeah, right. I ain't going to do that. I ain't going to tell anybody about that,
Mm,
because they're going to see me as weak. I got to
yep.
put that face on. I
Yep.
can't be weak. I can't show vulnerability. That's crazy.
Yep.
Guys don't do that. We don't talk
Mm,
about our feelings. That's just
mm,
so wrong. But,
mm.
I had to kind of embrace it. And that's part of, you know, this is part of my healing, I
Yeah.
realized, is to actually speak about it. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity because I know now it's just each day that I can talk about it and talk about openly in a safe space and in a non-judgmental way. And it's very liberating. Like that's literally liberating that energy, that stuck energy out of my body, and it's being processed to heal. So
Mm.
yeah, I really appreciate this space for me because it took me out of my comfort spot. I know I tell you, like, I have so many good friends of mine. You just got to talk about it. And,
Mm.
you know, I don't know if it must be a guy thing because it's just like, or maybe it's just me in general. Like, I just don't want to talk about my shit. That's why I had a therapist because I could just talk to her. I can go in, pay her, talk about my problems,
Yeah.
and I can leave and nobody will know the difference, right? And I can go back into
Yeah.
the world and, still be crazy and, still be a manic. But that's what is a beautiful thing about therapy. But now it's like, oh, I'm actually going to do this. And, it was interesting, even the podcast, because each one of my guests, like we're sharing here, and that's when we share stories and talk about things. And that was started the process of unraveling and be able to be vulnerable and speak. It's like, okay, yeah, that's happened to me. I do understand that, so I can relate to a lot of my guests too as well. But yeah, that's a funny thing, eh?
Oh, I just feel so moved. I'm just like being like a little bit teary back here because it's you know, I get it because I can feel it, like how it's affecting you. But I also feel that you're super inspiring, like
Thank
brave,
you.
so brave, and so like leading the charge here, even though it's, technically with a weak voice, like, no, it's like, no, it's powerful. What you're doing is super powerful. I feel like you're giving, a voice to everybody else who's sitting there listening, going, oh shit, I wish I could be doing this. Like you're doing it, like energetically, you're actually paving the way for people and role modeling how they can feel about themselves and their
Thank you.
process.
Thank you. That's
Oh,
very kind of
so
you.
yeah, I'm a bit choked up myself. My nose is running. Excuse me, I just got to get a tissue here.
No, bro, that's no worries. Yeah, um, you know, I always look at it. I never really saw myself as somebody being inspiring or courage. Um, I realized how humbling the experience was when I walked into the cancer clinic, and this was a big clinic. This is almost like the size of some hospitals. It was just for cancer patients, and the amount of cancer patients there, and a lot of
Wow.
older people by themselves going through cancer treatments by themselves, like just being dropped off. Like I
Oh
just
my
looked at that,
God.
I was like, damn. And I always, one of these, I don't know who I heard it from, but it's stuck in my brain. There's always somebody who has it worse than you did. There's always somebody who has it worse. And I witnessed that firsthand when I was at that thing. And I was like, I'm complaining about this and that and blah, 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 poor me, all that crap. And then I just look over the lady beside me and she's got tubes coming out of her. She's, all these different things. And I'm just going, yeah, I think I'll just shut the fuck up and just, smile. Like, really, like, come on. Like, I tell you, it was a really good eye opener. Like I said,
Yeah.
there's always somebody worse than me. And I saw it every
Yeah.
day. And,
Yeah.
it was a real eye. So those people I look at they're more heroes than I am.
Mm.
I mean, I'm just one of the very lucky ones that, but I think part and parcel too, as well, is something that I built. And one of the things I always recommend people is that you got to build your community. You got to find your
Yeah.
community. You got to find loving, caring people who actually care about your well-being, not some facade thing, but really just genuine caring and kindness and having those sort of people that are willing to go to bat for you. And that's one of the things I didn't think I
Yeah.
had that in my life. I really didn't think I had it. And that was one of my biggest problems is I always thought I was alone. I didn't have that. And people showed up that I wouldn't have expected to show up and they developed a community. So I mean, I highly encourage people,
Yeah.
even if it's not like even it's not even like to forget about the whole cancer thing in general, but just finding community that you gravitate toward, that will support you and inspire you to be great yourself. That's the one thing, that you can
Yeah.
do, because that's, I think we're lacking that these days. I think people are craving that, or craving connection, and craving deep philosophical, no bullshit connections that
Yeah.
they can be themselves, but they can be the best part of themselves, and to uplift each other. And, like I always say, like, I am my brother's keeper, and I'm here for you, my man. I'm here for you, my sister. And, let me open the door for you. Just let me open the door. And that's how I look at it, even through my work, is just, let me just open the door for you. I know you can get through this. And it's because of them. That's what really helped me in those dark days, really, those
Yeah.
dark days. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just you, the people out there, but
Yeah, it's always good to have. I told my daughters from a young age, always have 5 people that you can say anything to at any time, and they'll never judge you. And if you don't
yeah,
have 5, then work hard at finding those 5 people. So you always have 5. And
brilliant.
yeah, because if one's not available, then you can go to the other one, because you can't expect there's always just going to be that one person. There's never always going to just, we're all humans. Something could happen. It could be a different time of day that someone's not available. So I'm big on that. Let's work hard at making sure it's the quality, not the quantity. I know 5 doesn't
Mm,
seem like a big number, but it's a huge number when you just need one person to talk to. So,
yeah,
build that 5, and be willing to have the transparency in those conversations, so they know your shit, that they love you no matter what. And
yeah.
they see your light, but they don't judge you for your shit, because we all have it.
Thank the Lord on that one, for sure. I tell you.
So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very moved. It's a little bit hard to talk after what you've talked to me about. I feel like I need to sit in a corner and rock for a bit, and have a little bit of a cry, but in a good way, because it's really moved me. And I feel like it's part of a movement of light workers embracing their physicality, becoming more humble, becoming more transparent about their journey, not judging themselves for their journey, not judging each other for each other's journey, and to embrace that as we step more into these high vibrational frequencies. Things will
Yeah,
present themselves, and if we don't have the love and the compassion to hold the space and not judgment, and see them in a positive way instead of a negative way, we're just contributing to rejecting a part of ourselves that isn't ready to step forward into that same light, and just that same courage, and just that same boldness and bravery you've shown today. So thank you, Michael.
no, well, thank you, and thank you for providing me an opportunity to do this. Like, this is like really the first time I've really had an in-depth conversation about it. So
Mm.
it's been really, really beautiful, and I am so grateful for you and what you're doing. And yeah, I just saying thank you so much for this.
Thank you. And where can people find you? Just on us closing, we'll make sure that we that people can find your podcast and your any groups or anything that you'd like to put out there to connect.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can follow me on Instagram. I'm the metaphysical guy. So it's all one word there. So you can just look for my smiling face here. So the metaphysical guy on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook too, Michael Philpott. You can find my podcast. You can watch it on YouTube. So you can just type in Michael Philpott podcast, and you do it. Actually, there's a gentleman that has the same name as me in Australia too. So no, he's in New Zealand. Yeah, he's in New Zealand too, which is always weird. We always get mixed up all the time. But anyways, go to YouTube, type in Michael Philpott podcast, and you'll see my smiling face. Like, subscribe, please do. I need some subscribers. You can also find me on Rumble too as well. Type in the Metaphysical Mentor podcast on Rumble. And if you're an audio person, of course, I'm on Spotify. Look for the Metaphysical Mentor podcast on Spotify and Apple too as well. I think I got it all
Fantastic.
there. I got it all there, I
Great.
think. Anyways, yeah,
Fabulous.
beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you again, Michael. It's been such a joy for joining energies, and having a transparent, enlightened conversation. I really have definitely enjoyed it. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And I will chat with you next time on Enlightened Conversations. Thanks so much for tuning in. We are tackling the tough conversations. So we'll look forward to having another one, and finding the little gems that glisten out of them, when we cover them next. Thanks everybody, and bye for now.